Cell is the fundamental unit of life. Cell, the word cell derived from a Latin word which means little room. Robert Hooke was the first scientist to discover cell. He observed a dried piece of cork under a microscope which was made by himself, and he observed a piece of cork and he found out a structure similar to honeycomb. He observed a structure similar to honeycomb. You know that the structure of a honeycomb is such that little rooms are arranged in an order, right? So he called those little rooms as cell. And this is how the word cell has arrived. Since then, we have been using the word cell. It was in 1665 Robert Hooke discovered cell. So, based on the number of the cell in an organisms, we can classify organisms into two, that are unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. All cells in an organisms comes from pre-existing cells. We know that in our body there are millions of cells, and all these cells have been arrived from the pre-existing cells by the process of division. The cells divide and produce new cells. In unicellular organism, from the name itself, we can understand that uni means single. There will be a single cell, thus it is called unicellular organism. That single cell will perform all the function of that organism. For example, amoeba. And in the case of multicellular organism, there will be more than one cells and there will be many cells, and each cells perform different functions in that organism. The example for multicellular organisms are plants, animals, etc. And the size and shape of cells are related to specific functions they perform. Based on the function of a cell in an organism, the size and shape of a cell will be different. For example, in the case of human beings, there are different types of cells such as blood cells, muscle cell, nerve cell, etc. All these cells have different functions from each other, and thus their size and shape are different. For example, muscle cells will be large, and in the case of blood cell, it will be small. And there are different size and shape of cells, and there are specific components present inside the cells, and these components are called cell organelles. These cell organelles have specific functions, and all these functions combined for the proper functioning of an organism or the functioning of a cell. The functioning of a cell happens because there are specific functions inside the cell, and these specific structures, its specific components inside the cells, and these specific components have specific functions such as making new materials, clearing the waste material, etc. These specific components are called cell organelles. And here is the structure of a plant cell and an animal cell. The left side is a structure of a plant cell, and the right side is a structure of an animal cell. We can see different in plant cell and animal cell. Right from the image itself, we can see the difference. Both cells have specific components, that is cell organelles. They are endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, chloroplast, nucleole, nucleus, ribosomes, vacuole, etc. In animal cells, there is also other cell organelles, centriole. Cell organelles got specific functions. The organisms can be classified into two based on the number of cells. I had already told in the previous slide that are unicellular organism and multicellular organism. And depending on cell structure, there are two types of cells. They are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. That is prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cells are mainly found in single-celled organism or unicellular organism, whereas eukaryotic cell are present in multicellular organism. Thus, multicellular organisms are called eukaryotes, and unicellular organisms are called prokaryotes. We can look into more in other slides. Okay. And next, the structural organization of cell. We have seen the image of a cell, and we have seen many structure inside a cell. Then we're gonna see what are their functions and what are those structure. Three features are common in every cell. If we take two different organisms, the cells of those two different organisms have a common three features, that are plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. In plant cell, there is plasma membrane, and also in animal cell, there is plasma membrane and nucleus and cytoplasm. What are the function of these three common features? And first one is plasma membrane. It is the outermost covering of a cell. It separates cell from the surrounding environment and from other cell. From the neighboring cell and from the surrounding environment, a cell is covered or protected by the plasma membrane. From the name itself, we can understand it is a membrane, a covering, just like a membrane covering. And the feature of the plasma membrane is that it is selectively permeable, which means that the plasma membrane only allows the entry and exit of some selected materials in and out of the cell. The plasma membrane will not allow every organism to entry and exit from the cell. It will scan the components, scan the substance, or scan the materials before entering to the cell or before exiting from the cell. That is the main feature of a plasma membrane, which means selectively permeable. The movement of substances across the cell occur through mainly the processes called diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. The movement of substances through the plasma membrane occur by mainly three processes. They are diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. Diffusion means the movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. That is diffusion. So, if a component is more concentrated inside the cell, it will move from the cell to the outer environment. That is diffusion. If a material has to enter into the cell, the concentration of the material will be very high outside the cell, thus the material will enter into the cell. Then another one is osmosis. Osmosis is the movement of water molecule from higher concentration to lower concentration through a selectively permeable membrane. That is osmosis. Active transport means the movement of molecules by the use of energy. That is called active transport. And the plasma membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. Thus, it have a flexible nature. Plasma membrane is mainly flexible because it is made up of lipids and proteins. And other is cell wall. It is only present in plant cell. Animal cell doesn't have cell wall. Plant cell have plasma membrane and cell wall. Other than plasma membrane, plant cell have cell wall. It is composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, and gelatin. Cellulose is a hard material, thus cell wall is have a hard structure. It gives rigidity to the plant cell, and it safeguards cell from mechanical shocks and wounds. Next is nucleus. Nucleus is the center of the cell. It has its membrane covering that is double layered covering. It is called nuclear membrane. We know that cell have a covering, that is plasma membrane. The covering of nucleus is called nuclear membrane. It is the center of the cell. We know, means center means it is the part which control all the activity of cell. And nucleus contains the genetic material called DNA or called chromosome. Nucleus contains the genetic material called chromosome. Chromosome have some information that has to pass from parents to the offspring. The hereditary information is stored in the chromosome. It is stored inside the nucleus. Nucleus has a central role in cell division. Nucleus initiate the cell division. Then prokaryotes and eukaryotes. In prokaryotes, the cell lacks a nuclear membrane. In prokaryote, cell will have nucleus, but it will not have a nuclear membrane. The genetic material will be suspended in the cytoplasm or inside the cell. And eukaryotes will have a clear nuclear membrane, a clear nucleus or clear genetic material. This is the main difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes have a primitive nature of a nucleus, and eukaryotes have a developed nucleus or complete structure of a nucleus. This is all about nucleus. And the other feature is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the fluid content present inside the cell membrane, or it is a jelly-like substance inside the cell membrane. We know that there is specialized components inside the cell. It is present in the cytoplasm, and cytoplasm contains the specialized organelles such as endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria. All these cell organelles are present in the cytoplasm. Each cell organelles have their own membranes. We know that nucleus have a membrane, and such that cell organelles also have membranes. In prokaryotes, there will not be a membrane covered cell organelles. Only in eukaryotes, there will be membrane covered cell organelles. These are the common features of a cell: cytoplasm, plasma membrane, and nucleus. These are the common